Have you ever felt like you're carrying more than you can handle, but didn't realize it? The weight of worries, commitments, and relationships that no longer serve you can slowly build up without you even noticing. At first, it's just a subtle discomfort, a slight tightness in your chest, a lingering exhaustion that won't go away, a sense of being overwhelmed even in the quietest moments. You don't realize how much these things affect you until they start to feel like a part of you, dragging you down little by little. But here's the truth. That weight isn't just in your mind. You can feel it in your body, in your energy, and in the way you face each day. Every task, every interaction feels heavier, like you're running on empty. You might even find yourself stuck in cycles, revisiting old thoughts, reliving past mistakes, or holding on to things and people that no longer bring you peace. And all the while, happiness slips further away, not because you need more, but because you're too weighed down by what you've been holding on to. The real breakthrough comes when you realize true happiness isn't about adding more to your life. It's about letting go of what no longer serves you. The things that drain your energy, the people who hold you back, the commitments that leave you exhausted instead of fulfilled. The clutter in your mind and heart isn't just about space, it's about emotional freedom. It's about finding peace in the absence of unnecessary noise. But here's the catch. Letting go isn't easy. It's one of the hardest things we can do, especially when those burdens are tied to emotions, memories, or people you love. It's not about rejecting what's valuable. It's about releasing what holds you in place, preventing you from moving forward. It's about making the conscious decision to free yourself, without guilt, without explanations. Today, we're going to talk about 7 things you might need to quietly remove from your life. These aren't grand, dramatic decisions. They are subtle steps toward a more authentic life. A life where you stop carrying things that are no longer yours to carry. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but trust me, the liberation that comes from letting go will be worth it. So, let's dive in, because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to simply put down the weight you've been carrying for far too long. And when you do, you'll discover a peace you didn't even know was possible. Have you ever noticed how other people's worries sometimes become your own? It could be a child going through a rough time, a friend who can't seem to find a way out of their problems, or even a family conflict that indirectly involves you. When you love someone, it's natural to want to help, to support. But what happens when that love turns into a burden? When other people's problems start stealing the peace you've worked so hard to build? Carrying other people's drama is something many of us do without realizing it. We justify it, telling ourselves it's our responsibility, that it's the right thing to do, that it's what's expected of us. But we forget that there's a difference between accompanying and solving, between supporting and taking control. When you cross that line, the price is often your own well-being. I've been there. I've taken on the weight of friends, family, and situations that weren't mine to carry. It felt noble at first, like I was doing what I was supposed to do. But eventually, it became too much. It started to wear me down. I found myself consumed by their problems, losing track of my own peace, my own priorities. It was like walking through life with a backpack full of bricks. The more I carried, the heavier it became, and at some point, I realized I wasn't just helping anymore. I was drowning. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations *, tranquility can only be found when we free ourselves from the weight of others' affairs. Sounds simple, right? But in practice, it's one of the hardest things to do, especially when it involves people you love. The natural instinct is to fix, to jump in, to try to solve it all. But here's the thing. We don't have to fix everything. In fact, we can't. It's an illusion to think that we can carry others' burdens without it affecting our own lives. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning them. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means recognizing that you cannot live other people's lives for them. It means acknowledging that they, too, must carry their own weight. When we step in too much, we don't just carry their problems, we take away their ability to grow, to figure things out on their own. We become enablers, not helpers. We protect them from the consequences of their actions, which can often be the very thing they need to experience in order to learn and change. I know it's hard. I've struggled with the guilt of walking away from someone's struggle, even when I knew I was drowning. But imagine your life if you stopped carrying burdens that weren't yours. If you could be there for others without losing yourself in the process. It might feel guilty at first. That's normal. We've been taught that love means sacrifice, that it's selfish to take a step back, but no one tells us that sacrifice can turn into self-destruction. True love doesn't ask you to give everything until there's nothing left of you. True love is being there without imposing, supporting without solving, showing up without abandoning your own peace. Only from a place of balance can you truly help others. And here's the secret. When you stop carrying their drama, when you set down the weight that isn't yours, you become stronger, you become clearer, and you become more present. I'm not saying you shouldn't care. I'm not saying you shouldn't be there for the people you love. What I'm saying is that you need to take care of yourself. too. If you're constantly giving, without replenishing yourself, you'll burn out. You'll reach a point where you have nothing left to offer, not just to others, but to yourself. And that's not love. That's exhaustion masquerading as compassion. It's okay to let go. It's okay to release the grip on the burdens that aren't yours to carry. Not out of selfishness, but out of love for yourself and for others. Because in the end, when you're more at peace, when you're less weighed down, you're better able to help. You're better able to be present, to support in the right way, and to show up when it really counts. So, how much weight are you carrying that isn't yours? Maybe it's time to let go, not out of selfishness, but out of love. It's time to put down the baggage and find your own peace again. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but trust me, it's the best thing you can do for yourself and for the people you love. How many times have you said yes when you really wanted to say no? Maybe you agreed to a favor you couldn't fulfill. an invitation you didn't want, or a responsibility that overwhelmed you. You did it because giving in was easier than facing the discomfort of rejection. But at what cost? Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you betray yourself a little. It starts with small compromises, saying yes to things you don't feel like doing, to people you don't really want to please, just to keep the peace or avoid confrontation. But over time, these little betrayals start adding up, and eventually, they erode your sense of self, your boundaries, your own peace of mind. You lose touch with your own needs, your own desires, and you find yourself stuck in a cycle of pleasing others at the expense of your own happiness. The fear of rejection is a weight many of us carry, especially with the people we love. We don't want to disappoint them, seem selfish, or risk losing their affection. We tell ourselves that saying yes will make them happy, that it will strengthen our relationships, or that we'll feel guilty if we turn them down. But the truth is, this need to please others often becomes an emotional prison. It isolates us from our own needs, our own desires, and the life we truly want to live. Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard put it perfectly: the door to happiness opens inward. True fulfillment doesn't come from pleasing others, it comes from being true to ourselves. We often seek validation from others, but in doing so, we ignore the most important validation of all, our own. When we live by others' expectations, we are living inauthentically. We are living for someone else's approval, not our own happiness. True to yourself means learning to say no when something doesn't resonate with you, even if it makes others uncomfortable. It means recognizing that your time, your energy, and your well-being are precious. It means drawing boundaries that protect your mental and emotional health, even if it means disappointing someone else. This is where the real power lies, not in pleasing everyone around you, but in standing firm in your own truth, even when it feels hard. Let me tell you about Peter. At 68, he had built what seemed like a peaceful life. But beneath the surface, he lived under constant pressure to please his family. If a friend needed help, Peter was there. If his son needed money, he found a way, no matter how tight his own finances were. He never said no. He thought that if he didn't keep giving, if he didn't meet every demand, he might lose their love, their respect, or their need for him. One day, his grandson asked him to help with a move. Peter said yes, even though he knew his back couldn't handle it. He'd been ignoring the pain for weeks, convincing himself that he could push through it. But this time, his body finally gave out. He ended up injured, unable to move for weeks, stuck in a bed, unable to do even the simplest things. That's when he realized that his inability to say no wasn't just hurting him. It was creating a dynamic where everyone assumed he would always be available, always be willing to sacrifice his own health, his own well-being, for their needs. Peter's story is one I've seen time and again, in my own life and in the lives of those around me. It's easy to think that saying yes will make people love us more, respect us more, value us more, but in reality, The opposite happens when you constantly give, when you put everyone else's needs before your own. You become invisible, you lose your sense of self, and you become nothing more than a tool, an extension of others' desires. People stop seeing you as a person with your own boundaries, your own life. They see you as a constant source of supply for their needs. And that's not love, that's dependence. Saying no became an act of courage for Peter, not only because it challenged people's expectations of him, but because it forced him to confront his own fears. His fear of letting people down, his fear of being abandoned, his fear of rejection. But the more he practiced saying no, the more empowered he became. He began to realize that saying no didn't mean he was being selfish. It meant he was being responsible. He was taking care of himself, and in doing so, he was actually in a better position to help others. Because when you say yes out of obligation, you aren't helping anyone, you're just draining yourself, and eventually, you'll have nothing left to give. When you say no, you give others the chance to find alternatives. You teach them that your time and energy are valuable. You stop enabling their dependency on you, and you show them that they, too, can handle their own problems. You stop playing the martyr, the savior, the fixer. You allow others to take responsibility for their own lives, just as you should take responsibility for your own. Think about this. Every time you say yes out of obligation, you steal time from yourself, time that could be spent on what truly matters to you, time that could be spent with the people who truly nourish your soul, doing the things that make you feel alive, time that could be used to pursue your own passions, your own goals, your own happiness. Saying yes to everything means saying no to yourself. And if you keep doing that, eventually, you'll wake up one day and realize that you've lost yourself in the process. Saying no isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's the only way to protect your well-being and build more authentic relationships. When you say no, you're teaching others how to respect you. You're teaching them that you have boundaries, that you value yourself enough to protect your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. And when you value yourself, others will value you too. So, the next time you feel the urge to say yes, ask yourself, am I saying yes because I want to, or because I feel like I have to? Am I sacrificing my own peace for the sake of someone else's comfort? If the answer is yes, then maybe it's time to say no. It's time to start protecting yourself, your time, and your energy. Because in the end, saying no is one of the most powerful things you can do to reclaim your life. Have you ever caught yourself thinking about how things were 10, 20, or 30 years ago? Maybe you were physically stronger, had more responsibilities, or simply felt like you had a clearer purpose. The way we look back at the past can often feel like revisiting a familiar home, one that brings comfort. Even if it's just a fleeting moment, we remember times when life felt more certain, when we seemed to have everything figured out. It's easy to fall into the trap of nostalgia, to get lost in the idea that the past was somehow better, simpler, or more fulfilling. Nostalgia has a curious way of trapping us. It shows us an idealized version of the past, making it seem better than it really was. It paints everything with a golden brush: your youth, your relationships, your career, even the places you once lived. The past becomes a perfect reflection of who you were, the person you think you've lost. And in that moment, it seems as though you could go back and fix everything. You start believing that if you could just recapture those times, your life would somehow be better, easier, more meaningful. But here's the problem. When you spend too much time looking back, you miss what's right in front of you. Nostalgia can be a refuge, a safe place to escape when the uncertainty of the present feels overwhelming. In moments of doubt or discomfort, remembering the past offers a form of relief, a reminder of who you once were and how much you've overcome. It can feel comforting to think that the person you were in the past had something that the current version of yourself lacks. But what if I told you that in spending too much time in that refuge, you're building a prison for yourself? Nostalgia can quickly become a chain that holds you back from moving forward, from embracing who you are now, and from seeing what possibilities lie ahead. When you idealize who you used to be, you start comparing it to who you are now, and that comparison is rarely fair. The truth is, the person you were then isn't the same as who you are now. You've grown, experienced new things, faced new challenges, and gained new wisdom. So why is it that we tend to forget these things when we long for the past? We often forget the struggles, the sacrifices, and the imperfections that made those times what they were. We remember the good and filter out the pain, the hard work, and the losses. This selective memory shapes our nostalgia into a story where everything was better than it really was. Seneca once said, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." This is the heart of the problem with nostalgia. We cling to the past, suffering twice, once for what we think we've lost, and again because we deny ourselves the chance to enjoy what we have now. We create a narrative in our minds that the past was perfect, that it holds something irreplaceable, and by doing so, we rob ourselves of the joy and potential that exists in the present moment. We spend so much energy wishing we could go back, trying to recreate something that no longer exists, that we forget to make the most of what we have right in front of us. The present can never compete with an idealized past. Memory is selective. It remembers the good but filters out the struggles, the obstacles, the moments of doubt, and by focusing only on the idealized version of what once was, we limit ourselves to what we think we should have or could have been. But what if the real beauty of life lies not in reclaiming the past but in discovering new possibilities in the future? What if you looked forward with curiosity, not as someone trying to reclaim what's gone, but as someone open to discovering what's still possible? The truth is, the future holds endless possibilities, far beyond what we can imagine when we're trapped in the past. We often overlook these opportunities because we're too busy wishing we could turn back time. But every day is a new opportunity to create something fresh, something meaningful. It's not about going back to what you once were. It's about embracing who you are now, understanding that you are not defined by your past but by how you choose to move forward. If you let go of the idealized version of who you once were, you'll realize that you are capable of becoming something even greater than you could have ever imagined. So, next time you catch yourself longing for the past, remember, it's okay to appreciate it, but don't let it hold you back. The person you are now is just as worthy, just as capable, and just as valuable as the person you once were. Let go of the nostalgia for who you once were, and open your heart to who you can still become. There comes a time when our children are no longer little. They become adults with their own lives, decisions, and priorities. For many, this change is hard to accept, especially when their paths take them further away or when they don't respond with the closeness you hoped for. As parents, we've spent years nurturing them, guiding them, and watching them grow, but when they reach adulthood, it can feel like the roles reverse, and that nurturing spirit we've given them suddenly feels unreciprocated. It's as though we've poured so much into them, and now, we fear they may no longer need us the same way. It's easy to fall into emotional dependence. That feeling that your well-being depends on how often they reach out, how much time they give you, or how much they validate your place in their lives. You find yourself waiting for that phone call, checking messages obsessively, feeling disappointed when they don't initiate contact. You convince yourself that their attention or lack thereof is a direct reflection of your worth, your role as a parent. But here's the thing. Your happiness can't depend on what others do or don't do. You can't tie your sense of fulfillment to their actions, because when you do, you're giving away the power to control your own emotions. This doesn't mean you should be indifferent to them or that your love is any less important. It simply means that your worth cannot be tied to their approval or constant presence. They are their own individuals now, with lives that may take them places, physically and emotionally, that don't always align with what you imagined. That's a natural part of life and growth. However, when we're caught in the trap of emotional dependence, we place the responsibility of our happiness squarely on their shoulders, and that's an unfair burden to place on anyone, let alone our children. Emotional dependence doesn't always show up in obvious ways. Sometimes it's a passive-aggressive comment when they don't call enough, or a subtle guilt trip disguised as concern. You might say things like, "I haven't heard from you in days. Don't you care about me?" Or, "I'm so lonely. I just wish you'd spend more time with me." These are not expressions of love. They are expressions of need. They are a reflection of an emotional void that we are hoping someone else will fill. But the truth is, the only person who can fill that void is you. When you stop expecting your children to fulfill every emotional need, something surprising happens. You start finding fulfillment elsewhere, in your own interests, in new relationships, in projects you've set aside for years. You begin to rediscover parts of yourself that were put on hold during the years of raising them. Maybe it's a passion you set aside or a dream you never pursued. You realize that you have the ability to create a life full of meaning and joy. Without relying on them to provide that for you, you can love them deeply while also freeing them from the responsibility of being the source of your happiness. A healthier relationship is built when both sides have the freedom to simply be, you to live your life fully, and them to build theirs without guilt or pressure. Your happiness, your sense of fulfillment, cannot be contingent upon their actions. By letting go of the need for constant validation from them, you open the door to a deeper, more meaningful connection, one where both you and your children can enjoy each other's company without the weight of expectations or emotional dependency. It's a shift that allows you to truly let them grow and allows you to grow too. Because in the end, a fulfilling life starts with you, not them. How many things do we hold on to, not because we need them, but because letting them go feels like a betrayal of the meaning we've assigned to them? These are the objects that sit in our homes, in our closets, or in storage, not serving any practical purpose, yet remaining firmly rooted in our lives. Maybe it's an old book you've kept for years, a gift from a friend who's no longer in your life. You've never read it, and you're not interested in its topic, but every time you see it, you feel a pang of guilt at the thought of getting rid of it. The book has become more than just paper and ink. It's a symbol, a relic of a time, a connection to a person or a moment that once mattered. What I realized is that it wasn't the object I was holding on to, it was the emotion. That book represented a friendship that had faded, a memory of someone I used to be close to. The object became an emotional placeholder, a reminder of who I once was, or who I once thought I needed to be. The idea of parting with it felt like losing a piece of myself, even though, in truth, the object itself had no real value to me anymore. Keeping objects out of emotional obligation doesn't connect us to the past, it traps us in it. These objects can be like anchors that keep us from moving forward, tying us to a version of ourselves that no longer exists. We surround ourselves with things that remind us of what was, not of what is or what could be, and in doing so, we unknowingly create a barrier between ourselves and the present moment. These objects often carry weight far beyond their practical use, making it harder for us to let go, even when we know deep down that we no longer need them. Take a moment and think about the things in your life that hold emotional weight. Maybe it's a piece of jewelry that was once a gift from a loved one, or a letter that you've kept for years, even though it no longer serves any purpose. These objects become a part of your emotional landscape, even though they don't contribute anything to your present. They might bring nostalgia, but they also carry regret, guilt, or sadness. The kind of feelings that make us stay stuck in a place we don't belong anymore. The hardest part is realizing that by holding on to these items, we are not honoring the past, we are avoiding the present. We keep them because we fear forgetting, or because we think letting go is somehow disrespectful to the memories or people attached to them. But the truth is, keeping these objects doesn't bring back the past. It only keeps us tethered to it. In the process, we miss out on new experiences, new relationships, and new opportunities for growth. Sometimes, letting go of these things can free us more than we realize. It's not about getting rid of everything, but about keeping only what truly brings joy, what connects us to the present. By letting go of the objects that no longer serve us, we make space for new things to enter our lives, things that better reflect who we are now, not who we were. It's a form of self-liberation, a way to step out of the shadows of the past and into the light of the present. The real freedom comes when we stop allowing these objects to dictate our emotional state. We free ourselves from the weight of old memories, old connections, and old versions of ourselves that no longer serve us, and in doing so, we make room for the new growth, new possibilities, and new joys that are waiting for us right now. Letting go isn't about erasing the past. It's about making peace with it and choosing to live fully in the present, unburdened by objects that no longer hold meaning. As we grow older, we start valuing quality over quantity in our relationships. We realize that not all relationships nourish us. Some actually drain us. These are the relationships that, while not necessarily toxic, are unbalanced. It's the person who only shows up when they need something from you but is never there when you need support. It's the friend who takes and takes, without giving anything back, leaving you feeling exhausted after every conversation. They don't intentionally harm you, but over time, their presence becomes more of a burden than a blessing. These relationships drain your energy and affect how you feel about yourself. They make you question your worth and your place in the world. You might find yourself constantly giving, trying to be there for them, but never receiving the same in return. It becomes emotionally exhausting, and after a while, you realize you're giving pieces of yourself away without ever being replenished. You start to feel empty, like you're pouring from an empty cup, and that's when you begin to question if these relationships are worth keeping at all. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "The most important relationship you have is with yourself." This is where the crux of the issue lies. When you prioritize relationships that drain you, you are unknowingly sacrificing your relationship with yourself. You're giving away your energy to others, and in doing so, you stop nurturing your own well-being, your own growth. Over time, this imbalance can lead to feelings of resentment, self-doubt, and exhaustion. And here's the truth. When you're too focused on maintaining these draining relationships, you limit your ability to grow and thrive in other areas of your life. But it's not always about cutting these relationships off completely. Sometimes, setting clear boundaries is enough. Establishing healthy limits in your relationships can make a world of difference. It's about recognizing when someone is taking more from you than they are giving and making a conscious decision to protect your energy. Boundaries don't mean you stop caring. They mean you care enough to protect your own well-being. You don't have to walk away from everyone who drains you, but you do need to learn how to say no and how to prioritize your own needs. The most important thing is to choose your relationships carefully. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who listen without judgment, and who celebrate your victories. These are the relationships that nourish you, that help you grow, that make you feel seen and heard. They give you energy, they support you in your goals, and they help you become the best version of yourself. You deserve relationships that make you feel good about who you are, not ones that leave you questioning your value. In the end, relationships should be a source of joy, not stress. The people in your life should inspire you to be better, not drain you of everything you have to give. It's about finding balance, investing in relationships that bring positivity into your life and learning to let go of those that hold you back. By doing this, you give yourself the space to flourish and thrive, and in turn, you'll be able to give more of yourself to the relationships that truly matter. Have you ever felt the need to explain your decisions or your way of living just to be accepted? It's a feeling many of us know all too well, the desire to seek validation, to feel like we're doing the right thing in the eyes of others. We often feel like we have to justify our choices, whether it's why we stay home instead of going to a family gathering or why we prioritize our own well-being over other people's expectations. It's as though we're constantly under a microscope, worrying that others won't understand or approve of the way we live our lives. The truth is, we don't owe anyone an explanation. We shouldn't have to constantly defend our decisions or apologize for taking care of ourselves. But somehow, many of us have been conditioned to believe that we have to meet others' expectations to be accepted, to be loved, or to fit in. This need to justify ourselves often starts small. Maybe it's a comment from a well-meaning friend or family member asking why you aren't going out, or why you're taking a break when there's still so much to do. At first, it feels like a harmless question, but when these questions pile up, they start to make us doubt our choices. We begin to think that maybe we are doing something wrong, that maybe our needs don't matter as much as the demands of others. But living to meet others' expectations only makes us shrink. We lose sight of who we really are, what we truly want, and what makes us happy. We end up living a life of compromise, constantly molding ourselves to fit into other people's boxes, never fully stepping into our own skin. And the more we justify our choices to others, the more we feel like we're losing ourselves in the process. You don't have to justify why you take time for yourself, why you distance yourself from relationships that no longer serve you, or why you prioritize your well-being. It's your life, your journey, and you are the only one who truly understands the reasons behind your choices. Every decision you make is a reflection of who you are and what you need at that moment. You don't need to seek approval or understanding from others to validate your path. Your happiness, your peace, and your well-being are worth prioritizing. When you stop justifying yourself, you regain your freedom. You break free from the invisible chains of expectation and start living authentically. You start making choices that bring you closer to who you really are, not who others think you should be. It's not about being selfish, it's about being true to yourself. It's about recognizing that you have the right to live your life on your terms, without constantly worrying about how others perceive you. This shift isn't easy. It takes courage to stand firm in your choices, especially when others don't understand or agree. But the more you practice living authentically, the more you'll find that the people who truly matter will respect you for it. The ones who love you will support your decisions, even if they don't fully understand them. And those who don't, they don't deserve a place in your life. So, stop justifying yourself. Stop explaining your choices to others. Your life is yours to live, and the only person you need to answer to is yourself. When you stop seeking external validation, you open the door to a life that is truly yours, one where you can make decisions with confidence, knowing that you are living in alignment with your truest self. Throughout this video, we've explored the silent burdens we often carry without realizing it: relationships, objects, fears, and judgments. These are the things that weigh us down, sometimes without us even noticing. We hold on to them out of obligation, guilt, or the fear of losing something important. But what we often don't realize is that holding on is actually what's keeping us trapped. Letting go isn't a loss, it's an act of liberation. It's a step toward a lighter, more authentic life, where you can finally breathe freely, unburdened by the weight of things that no longer serve you. Life isn't measured by how much we accumulate, whether it's possessions, accolades, or even relationships. True fulfillment doesn't come from the endless chase for more, but from how much we truly enjoy life. And often, we can only experience that joy once we make space for it. Letting go makes room for what really matters: the peace of being yourself, the joy of living in the present moment, and the opportunity to reinvent yourself. When you stop holding on to what's draining you, you open the door to a life that's filled with possibility, where your energy, your focus, and your heart can align with what truly matters to you. But I want to be clear, letting go isn't always easy. It requires courage to face the discomfort, to break free from what feels familiar, even if it's no longer healthy. It's about acknowledging the things, people, or thoughts that are holding you back and deciding that you deserve more than to be tethered to them. This journey isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about making small, intentional choices every day to free yourself from the silent burdens that weigh you down. If you've made it this far, I invite you to take the next step with me. Subscribe to this channel, share your thoughts, and join me in this journey toward a fuller, more peaceful life. Let's make a conscious choice together to let go of the things that no longer serve us and create the space to live more authentically. Your peace, your joy, and your freedom are worth it. Together, we can build a life that's not defined by what we hold on to, but by what we let go of. So take a deep breath and step into the freedom of living without the weight of unnecessary burdens. This is your time to shine, and I'm here to support you every step of the way.